There are experts out there that are ready and willing to help you through crazy things in your life. And you are not alone. 1 in 5 adults deal with this. So it's just a matter of people being more open and honest about those experiences, I feel like. But yeah, maybe just have an honest conversation with your therapist. Don't do what I did. Would not recommend doing what I did.
Okay, hello and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Julie Johnson. I am the president and founder of Heart and Solutions. We are a mental health counseling and behavioral health counseling agency here in Iowa. So if you are looking for telehealth services or in-office or in-school sessions at any of our 6 locations, definitely get in touch with us. Or if you're out of state, we can also get you connected with a counselor.
And I'm Chrissa. I am the Vice President in charge of the BHIS department at Heart and Solutions. So BHIS stands for Behavioral Health Intervention Services. And that's the program where we go in home or in school or telehealth right now as well and see kids to work on different behavioral skills. And the whole family is included in that as well. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Yeah, so we post on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Central Time on YouTube, on Spotify, on Anchor, anywhere that you would listen to podcasts. So set your timer for Sunday night. We always suggest batch up some task you hate doing and make it a ritual. So Chris and I will be putting away our clean laundry so we have outfits to wear for the week. That also gives you that entire week to get in touch with a counselor, get scheduled with your counselor if you haven't seen them in a little too long, and also to be able to get in touch with our guest from this week. So go ahead and set that for Sunday night, and we'll be putting away laundry or meal prepping at that time right along with you. Okay, so today we have 2 guests. This is like a bonus double guest edition. So today we've got the founder of How About Hope. We've got Mikhayla Hughes-Shaw. And we also have a member of our own team here, Simone Collins. She is a therapist in our Davenport office here in Heart and Solutions. So I will go a little bit, let me tell you guys a little bit about Mikhayla before we introduce her, okay? So Mikhayla was Miss Iowa 2018. You guys, that is really, really cool. For this Miss America Scholarship Program, and has completed 150 community and school appearances, does public speaking. She is now doing all kinds of media about and presentations about the importance of mental health care, of suicide prevention. She is the founder of How About Hope, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about that, but it is an awesome nonprofit organization that helps a lot of people. So we're really, really excited to hear about How About Hope. To tell you a little bit about Simone. So Simone is a member of our Davenport Heart and Solutions team. If you sign up for mental health therapy in Davenport, or if you want to do telehealth sessions, Simone is doing those sessions right now, and very, very passionate about mental health care, helping people, and especially helping people from underrepresented and underserved communities. And Simone joins us also because she's a board member, and the board president of How About Hope. So we're excited to have both of you here. We have the founder and we have the president here to tell us. So yes, please tell us a little bit about How About Hope. What is this service?
I can go ahead and start. So Hope honestly started as something so small, and maybe I shouldn't say small because it was really the first time that I had opened up about my own struggles with my mental health. And it was the first time that I found bravery in a way. And it was the first time that I also realized that I was not alone and that so many other people dealt with mental health conditions. So in 2015, I received a very small grant. It was $250 from a local nonprofit. And they said, hey, go do something positive, go make a difference in your community and try to tackle some sort of social issue that you feel like is really impacting your community. And a few months prior to that time, I think I got the grant in like September. A few months prior was the first time that I had openly talked about being suicidal and was just swarmed with other people saying, hey, I've gone through the same thing. I've also dealt with these feelings. So I did what is called a sticker campaign, and I'm pretty sure this started on a college campus somewhere a while back, but I created a sticker that was fillable so people could kind of write in whatever they wanted. And it said, I have hope because blank. And so then it challenged people to think about why they had hope. And I had created hope with the as an acronym for helping others and providing encouragement. So it was really just like this open-ended question that I wanted people to answer. And I got a wonderful response from my peers and from strangers. And then it just has continuously grown since then. It started off with, like I said, that small sticker turned into a small organization. We became a 501c3 in 2019. And really we focus now on community engagement and giving people a safe space to just have open and honest discussions, maybe even just about wellness as well, trying to expand that conversation too. And yeah, it's grown into something much larger. And it's also what I used as my platform for my year of service when I was Miss Iowa too. So I got to talk to 3-year-olds about taking care of themselves. And also I got to meet a couple of people that were over 100 years old.
Wow.
And I got to talk to them as well about the mission. So I think it's something that transcends regardless of your age, race, social economic status, all of that. It's something that can impact literally anyone at any time. So it has grown with me, but then I also just continuously see it. I mean, we see what happened during the pandemic. We're still kind of living through that. I feel like mental health conditions have been exacerbated. I feel like so many more people are coming to terms with the fact that this is a big deal. And a lot of people are going through it and they're not alone. So that's a little bit about how about hope. I'm sure that there's some things I forgot, but that's why Simone is here. Simone came in pretty early on too. It was funny because I've known Simone since I was in kindergarten, and she reached out to me after I had made a post probably in 2018 or so, maybe even 2017. And she said, hey, whatever you're doing, like, I want to be a part of that. And ever since then, we have been like the two very consistent people for the org. So it's been awesome.
Wow, I love that. So it sounds like, I mean, this is such a powerful message that you guys are presenting to other people. You've talked about you're not alone, right? And I think that until we've gone through it, that isolation that can happen when we're struggling with any kind of mental health challenges, there's that isolation feeling that I think that we don't always know about, right? Like unless people like you guys are out there talking about this stuff, we don't know that that's part of it, that we feel like we're alone, that we feel like we're the only ones going through this. And so I love what you guys are doing on the front end and going out and going, yeah, you're not alone, and hear that before it happens, hear that while it's happening to you, hear it as you're going forward, and then tell other people, right? Spread it to others as well. Wow. So you guys you do a lot of media, you do a lot of speaking about these issues. Is it mainly college campuses, or are you doing high schools? Are you doing other venues? Where do people most see you guys present and speak?
I guess I can field this question. So actually, I don't think we've ever spoke on college. Well, I have not been to a college campus with How About Hope. I know that for her Miss Iowa campaign, we did go to Rock Island High School. We both graduated from and had a presentation there. We also went there for the Chase and Randall camp and talked to the kids and like breakout sessions. And I designed a PowerPoint presentation based on Inside Out for the little kids, and that was a lot of fun. But we've done a lot of coffee shop type things. A coffee shop in downtown Rock Island was really gracious and let us use their space. We would just hang out, do games, have open mic, have people share their stories. We had mental professionals come in and talk about different mental health issues and suicide awareness. We had a Halloween event at the Friendly House before. So we're pretty versatile in where we go. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, just like Mikhayla talked about, being able to reach that wide audience, right? Being able to talk to as many people as possible about these situations, because it doesn't matter who we are. We all have a brain, right? And so that brain that we all have, part of being a human is that we've got a brain, and that brain needs to be exercised, right? That brain needs to be able to be taken care of, and to remain healthy. And so I love that you guys are doing all of these different events to speak with children and to speak with adults and everybody in between, to be able to spread that message. And so, Simone, how did you get to become? I know how you came to How About Hope, but what brought you to the mental health counseling field?
Yeah, so throughout my entire life, I actually wanted to be a lawyer, a different type
Oh.
of counselor. um, until I did a log sports program, which was really fun in high school. It was awesome. It was a great experience. And I was like, nope, this is not for me. Not at all. And I just remember sitting out front during my high school, I want to say my senior year of high school. And I was on the phone with my aunt. It was the very beginning of my senior year because when I applied to colleges, like I declared my major as psychology and everything. And I was like, I think I want to be a counselor. And I was like, oh, I've never thought about that before. And it just kind of sprung from there. Mental health has definitely been at the forefront of my family's life. Have we dealt with it healthily? No. Are we starting to deal with it healthily because I forced them to? Yes. But my mother has bipolar disorder, and that has like been a huge thing in our lives. Like she is healthy, working, does her thing, good mom 90% of the time. But when she gets sick, it flips our whole world upside down. And one of the things I love about How About Hope is that I always thought that I was like weird or alone, or my mom wasn't a good mom for bipolar disorder. And it's like, no, people have family members with mental health concerns, and that's okay. It doesn't make them any less of a person. So being an advocate, not only for people like my mother, but for people like me who deal with mental health symptoms and then have a family member who deals with a severe and chronic mental health issue, like that is very, it's a lot. It is a lot, if that size said anything. But yeah, just being there to help people, having the help that I wish I would have helped when I was an adolescent and not like understanding my mom at all. And even now as an adult, like to be able to take care of her better, I got to take care of myself, and I want to help people take care of themselves better too.
Yeah, I love that. I think that, the mental health field has started to do a much better job, of educating people about their own diagnoses. And so when people have a diagnosis, I think that there have been some changes where people are now being explained what that means, being part of that diagnostic process, and then having input on it, right? And being able to understand what that means versus what, society thinks that bipolar disorder is. Because it's very different a lot of times than what people kind of picture in their heads from the movies or from TV. And so I think that the mental health field is doing a better job in that direct explanation of diagnosis. However, like you talked about, family members do not have a way always to understand that, to have that educational piece and to have that shared experience piece, because if you don't know other children who are living with that same situation, you don't get to pick up those tips. You don't get to pick up those strategies and those reframes. I love what you talked about, thinking that your mom was maybe not a good mom, and then having the understanding, having the awareness, having the education, and going, oh, no, my mom is a great mom who has bipolar disorder. I think that's an amazing way that people can find hope and can find healing in that education that you guys are doing. So, I mean, it is beautiful. And I know that you had mentioned in your bio that you had a great counseling experience at one point for you. Can you tell me about how counseling impacted your life?
One of the main things that I definitely struggle with is being a perfectionist. So I have anxiety disorder because of that, and not having faith in myself, and not thinking that I'm smart enough, and not seeing myself the way others see me. And counseling helped me with realizing that, okay, Simone, you have come this far in your education or your career, not because you lucked up, because you are actually smart. Like, things were not handed to you. You worked for things, you're capable, you're competent, and giving myself the tools to be able to tell myself those things when I am being very hard on myself, like, oh my God, I'm not smart enough. I can't handle this. And it's like, yes, you can, Simone. Like, here's all the proof. It was like things that I wouldn't have done before without counseling. And then realizing that it's okay to feel my feelings and, just be me and be weird and be quirky, and everything about me is good, even things I have to work on, like all the things make me. So definitely helping me see myself in a better image, and also helping to destigmatize taking medicine. I actually do take medication for anxiety and depression. There was a time where I was having multiple anxiety attacks a day, every day of the week, to the point where when I was living with my parents in grad school, I called them. I was really scared, and my dad was like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. He called the doctor. I talked to my counselor, and they helped, my counselor helped normalize it's okay to take medicine. You would take medicine for diabetes. Why is it not okay to take medicine for your anxiety attacks? You shouldn't have to suffer. And let me tell you, the anxiety attacks have almost disappeared with a combination of both medicine and counseling.
Awesome.
I love that. I mean, you're a living success story. You're living example that these supports work, right? And I know you talked about the things that you wish that you had in adolescence, and you're providing that now to those future generations, and also providing that support and structure that helped you personally. I think that's amazing. It's just beautiful, the passion that you bring to this service. And Mikhayla, you had a great one and a mediocre
Yeah.
counseling experience. Can you tell us about those? How has counseling impacted your life?
I sure can. And it's so funny because, I mean, we're being fully transparent here. I actually just had I'd say my best counseling experience literally last week, like best one so far. I had expressed to Simone, and she already knows all about this, but we'll talk about the mediocre one first. And my previous counselor I felt like he spent a whole lot of the time telling me about what he was going through, and not necessarily, I would talk, but I just felt like I was never really getting the true help that I needed. And I'm not saying that he didn't help me initially, because he did, but we didn't see eye to eye on certain things too. I would call him a conspiracy theorist. And so it was really interesting, to say the least. And I went to him during the pandemic. So combine conspiracy theorist with pandemic, and I think you should get a pretty clear image there. So it was very hard though, because I didn't know how to break up with my counselor. It's such a strange thing to have to do. But we'll talk about the positive one though. I have been dealing with more anxiety lately, and I recognized that I did need to get back into therapy to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, especially because it's hard sometimes. I'm this advocate and I'm always like, take care of yourself, take care of yourself. And I need to take care of myself. I need to take that advice as well. And yeah, it was just a very positive shift for sure. I feel like I found a good fit, which I'm really excited about. And so I think that's also a testament to that. Just because you have one bad experience, don't let that turn you off from all experiences, because I was like, I'm not giving up on this. I know that this is going to be helpful for me. And it has been so far. But yeah, just the first one didn't work out too well.
That sounds extremely awkward and painful to attend those kinds of sessions. I have no idea what my counselor's political views are or thoughts are on the moon landing or anything, and I don't and I don't care to know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not. Like, I don't think that that's how it should ever go. Like,
No.
it doesn't. And I'm sitting here talking to 3 professionals. Like, it's not how it should go. So I was like, I need a change.
Absolutely. I love that. And I actually, the term that you used, I kind of love. You had to break up with your, you had to break up with your therapist. And that is a difficult thing to do. I mean, we're in this situation, we're in the room with the person. That person is kind of, a lot of times we see that person as the expert, right? And we're coming to them for help, which is a vulnerable position to put ourselves in anyway, right? And so then having to have those hard conversations, that is challenging. How did you do that? What suggestion, like what advice would you give to somebody who's like, okay, I want to benefit from counseling, but my counselor, I feel like I need to break up with them. How did you do that?
Well, I'm not sure, and gosh, I'm exposing myself. I don't know if I necessarily did it in the best way either. I got to a point where I just stopped booking follow-up appointments. And he, like I said, he had helped me quite a bit. I was going through a huge transitionary period. I had graduated from college in the middle of the pandemic. I had started my first professional job, and I was just really struggling trying to find balance and all of that. So he helped me get to a pretty good point. And so the way that I kind of did it is I just said, I feel really good right now. Like, thanks so much for all of your help. And I just didn't book another appointment. I knew that there was a lot of good that could come from seeking that right therapist. And so I just didn't give up on that. And I started searching for, I've also recognized too that I'm really comfortable in a Zoom setting. So virtual is really helpful for me, and it's very convenient for me too. And so I searched high and low for a good virtual therapist, and I was able to find that. So I think it took me having that experience to know what I do want in a counselor. And it's been extremely helpful because I feel like I'm working through things and learning how to manage anxiety a little bit better. So it's been an adjustment for sure, but one that I'm very grateful for. And it's funny because I actually set up an appointment as well to talk about medication. So I think medication is a beautiful thing. I think everybody needs help. I think that it's a beautiful thing for those who do need that additional help. And I think I'm at a point right now where it'd be very helpful for me. So, but I think it takes a lot to say that, and we need to continue to break that stigma down. Like, hey, there are experts out there that are ready and willing to help you through crazy things in your life, and you are not alone. 1 in 5 adults deal with this. So it's just a matter of people being more open and honest about those experiences, I feel like. But yeah, maybe just have an honest conversation with your therapist. Don't do what I did. I would not recommend doing what I did.
I mean, yeah, when we think about, those hard conversations, like, yeah, maybe there is some best case scenario, but honestly, when we're taking care of ourselves, like we are with mental health care, that's what the focus needs to be on, right? Is taking care of ourselves and our needs. And so if that's the way that we need to get to where we need to be, which is with a counselor that you feel like you are connecting with a counselor that you can say, I probably had the best therapy session I've ever had, right? Last week. I mean, that's where we want you to be. And that's what is important when we're taking care of ourselves, right? We get a little bit, one of the things that makes it so hard to take care of ourselves is that there are these challenges and there are these barriers. And sometimes we go, oh, I need to take care of myself, but I need to be taken care of before I could do something like have that difficult conversation with this stranger who obviously has very strong opinions. Right? So like, I'm going to have a conflict here, right? So being able to have that focus on, nope, I'm doing this for me, right? And that keeps, and I love that even though those sessions, it sounds like had a weird like focus on your counselor, you were able to go, wait a minute, what are we doing here? This is about me and my mental health care and what I need to take care of me. And that is exactly where the focus should be. And I feel like you kind of were able to take back that focus, right? In that situation. So I love hearing that. And I love what you guys are saying about medication too, and normalizing medication, because I feel like when we say, hey, I'm going to take medication because there is something like chemically, right, different in my brain than where my brain, and to be able to say, no, this is not in my head, right? Like, this is not in my head. So in the same way that I can't be like, okay, if I just think really, really hard about not having diabetes, like I just won't have it, right? Simone brought up diabetes. It's such a great example. Like, would I be like, oh, well, I'll just think really hard about it and I'll just like write reminders to myself not to have diabetes? Like, no, right? Like, we couldn't do it. It makes no sense, right?
I've never
Like,
heard it that way, but that's really good. Yeah.
I can't think my way out of a physical challenge, right? And so my body needs insulin, right? Like maybe my body needs a medication to balance out those chemicals or to allow my brain to accept the chemicals that are in my brain, right? And that are being provided to myself. That now the behavioral, right? And the talk therapy side of things, now those things can start to help me because I might be flooding my system with serotonin and not be able to take it in, right? So what good is flooding my system with serotonin if I can't like grow adapters? I can't grow so yeah, I love what you guys are saying about that because it's so validating, right? To be like, no, this is not like in my head, I'm making it. This is a physical, there's a physical component to this, and that's where medication comes in, right? And just like then we might meet with a nurse if we're diagnosed with diabetes and they say, okay, we need you to take this insulin, and we go, okay, we're still going to probably meet with a nutritionist, right? We're still going to do behavioral things. We're going to check our blood sugars and do all of that. We're still doing that side of things, which is where the counseling comes in, right? But we're taking care of the physical part as well. We need to. So yeah, I absolutely love what you guys are saying about that because I think it's so validating taking medication for that reason, because what it is saying is, and for too long, we've heard the message that, well, taking medication is like relying on the medication or whatever, right? But we don't say that about crutches. If somebody breaks their leg, we're not like, oh, you're relying on that crutch, you know. We go, yeah, that's what you should do. You should get a cast on your leg, right? So yeah, I love that. Absolutely. It's so powerful, the combination of the two. And I love that you guys are out there sharing your stories, because this is really, you know, as a society, this is how we learn. We learn by hearing other people's stories. We're created to learn in that way. We're pack animals, right? Like humans learn from each other. And it's so important. So I love that you guys are out there doing this work. And anxiety, gosh, I feel like anxiety can be so underdiagnosed, especially when we are high functioning, right? So we may have panic disorder, or we may have generalized anxiety disorder or social anxiety disorder, right? But we're also capable people, right? We're also able to find workarounds, right? And so then we become high functioning, and high functioning anxiety is so underdiagnosed, right? Because to the outside person, it's like, well, that person has all their stuff together, right? Like that person's doing great. Whereas like inside, we're like, oh my gosh, like fire alarms, right, are going off in our heads all the time. But people are like, that person's awesome. So it is such an underdiagnosed difficulty. And I think, but it's so painful. And people don't always understand how painful that is because they can't see it, right, on the outside. It doesn't come across behaviorally. So I think that is just really, really cool that you guys are sharing those experiences as well. Because, somebody might meet you and have no idea. They might be like, yeah, these guys are great. They're professionals, right? They're out here speaking. Like they don't have any fear. Gosh, I wish I could go speak to a crowd, right? I wish I could go present, but I can't because I feel so anxious about it. Like we do too, right? So I just love that. You guys are living, walking, breathing examples and role models and inspiration that taking care of ourselves is so important and that it does work. We can achieve whatever we want to. We can start a nonprofit with $250 and continue to grow it, right, to help and spread this message. So I just think it's amazing. And one of the focuses of How About Hope is about, and again, How About Hope? So hope standing for helping others and providing encouragement. And one of the focuses in your mission is to dismantle the stigma associated with mental health and treatment, particularly in communities of color. So I know that you talk to everybody, you go to schools, you go to all kinds of places, but tell me about, for communities of color, what are some of those mental health challenges and what message are you guys spreading?
Okay, so one of the things that we want to start doing and that my pastor has hounded me about is going into churches, especially Black churches, because a lot of African Americans identify as Christian, grew up in the Black church, and there's a lot of stigma about mental health in Black churches. I definitely grew up with that stigma, which was a whole other reason with my mom's issue. That's a whole other thing, but it's like, you can pray your way out of things. You rely on God more. Your mental illness is a demon and all these different things. And my pastor, thank goodness, is not like that at all. He's like, you need to get counseling to get your way through some things. Not everything can be prayed away. Like you have to deal with trauma. Like mental health is a real thing. And he wants us to do a presentation in church one day about mental health and telling people go get the help they need, that they can have Jesus and a counselor. So that is one of our hopefully new focus areas. With COVID, things took a big hit for us going to places and doing advocacy. I know there are some other organizations in the Quad Cities, like the Lincoln Center, that I would like to get connected with in downtown Davenport with Miss Tracy White. She's always doing, Tracy Singleton, excuse me. She's always doing great things with communities of color. Of course, there's the MLK Center in Rock Island. So those are just a few of the places that I can think of off the top of my head of, how to get that message to communities of color. I know more about Black communities since I am Black. Of course, there are other communities of color like Asian and Hispanic and things like that. So it's being able to get into those communities as best as possible.
And I will say Simone is kind of the one who helped us recognize the fact that our entire board, we knew that we were all people of color, but we really didn't think anything of it. And then we were like, well, this is really important, right? Because there's just this added stigma being a person of color, like Simone was saying, being deeply rooted in the church and Christian culture and thinking about praying things away. And then also it's just like the additional things that you deal with as a person of color versus being just a white individual in the US. And so we thought it was really important to spread that message and to talk about that. So we are not solely serving just communities of color, but it is a big focus because it's who we are, and it's how we navigate the world, and it's how we've experienced mental health conditions as well. So it's another additional stigma to break down.
Absolutely. I love that, because you guys are able to say, okay, where do we see a need, right? That we have the experience, the understanding, the connections to be able to serve that need. And I will say, so I'm Asian American, and oh my gosh, like, there are not very many resources. And it's really, really difficult, because there are a lot of things that impact my life, right? That don't impact Chrissa's life, right? And vice versa, right? Vice versa also. But there are things that come with being Asian American in Iowa, that not everybody understands, and that not everybody's going to process. And even in the mental health community, that not every mental health therapist or counselor is going to understand. And so, it's what our mental health is impacted by our world and by the things that we experience. And so I just think it's so important that we be validating these experiences that we're having to other people, and then to be able to say, and mental health care, right? Like, to be able to say, like, yes, and it does impact our mental health, I think is so important. And then religion as well is such a strength, can be such a strength for our mental health care, and then also can be a detriment to our mental health care. And I love what you're saying about your pastor understands that, yes, mental health care is a real thing, right? Trauma is an actual thing. Like, there is a physical component here, right? And being able to, and when we acknowledge that in our faith communities, so I belong to a Baptist church, so there isn't always that understanding, right? That it sounds like your pastor has. And so the idea of, well, let's pray about it, right, is so beneficial in addition to trauma-informed care, right? It's so important in addition to trauma-informed care, and not in place of, right? And using our diabetes example, right? I mean, if we can believe that our creator created doctors to help us, right? And we go to a doctor, then we can believe that that our creator, whoever that is to us, has put people in our path, put people accessible to us that are trained to be able to help us. And we don't, in any religion, there's always that sense of community, right? There's always that focus on doing things together, doing life together, no matter what background, religious background we're talking about. And so all of those things are such a strength when they're not trying to take the place, right?
Yes, I went to a conference a few years ago, pre-COVID, and Dr. Virgil A. Woods, Reverend Dr. Virgil A. Woods, said to me, he just like came up to me and started talking, and I'm like, okay, this big shot who knew Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., like, why is he speaking to me? But he said the most profound thing to me. He asked me, well, what are you doing? What are you in school for? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in school to be a counselor. And it's always a little weird for me to say that to a Black religious person. He was like, well, Jesus did mental health work. And I was like, that's a great way to put it. And that has always stuck with me, that, and like thinking that religion and whatever your faith background is, I respect all religions. I just identify as Christian. But like your religion and mental health treatment can be hand in hand. And pastors do have such a big influence on the church, because so many people in church have asked me, can you refer me to a counselor, which I think is beautiful. And I don't think 20 years ago in the churches I grew up in, that would have been a thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm very happy about that.
I love that. It really does start with the church leadership, right? Being accepting or not accepting. And a lot of churches are starting to understand, right? And are starting to educate and promote care of all kinds. Right? Like, yes, we should have. And oh my gosh, I'm gonna like print this on my wall, but you can have a therapist and Jesus, right? You could have Jesus and a therapist. Oh
Yes,
my gosh.
that's on posters, that's on t-shirts. I'm like, that right there.
I love that. That is like the two of you should host a podcast, and it can be, you can have Jesus and a therapist. I love that.
Like Simone, we might have found our podcast idea right there.
There you go. I will do it. Yes.
It's so good. It's so good. There's a type of grief yoga. And the founder of that treatment, when he talks about it, he talks about how his mother would not do yoga with him, would not do this grief yoga, and it's seated chair yoga, and wouldn't do it because she felt like it was against her religion, right? And his message too with that was like, when you're doing these poses, do them to Jesus. Like that's you're doing them to Jesus. Like all of these poses are opening up, right? We are just like plants in that way, right? We're always opening up to the sun, to the sky, to the heavens. And so was able to talk his mom through that and show that alignment. And so I love what you're saying about, when we look at the texts, right? So often we find people supporting other people. We find people doing this kind of care for other people throughout the text. So I think it is so beautiful. Okay. And then are there other barriers that you guys are finding for people of color, communities of color to be able to get into mental health care and to get into treatment? Are there barriers you're seeing there?
So for me as a Black counselor, one of the biggest barriers is not having enough counselors of color, Black counselors. I do have Black clients out of town who see me because I am Black. I am a Black woman. They do not feel comfortable sharing with people who are not of color, who don't look like them. They just want, not comfortable, but they just want somebody who gets their lived experience being a person of color, not having to explain those things on top of the mental health things that they're coming for. Like it is really a huge thing. I myself am searching for a Black counselor, and it's really hard to do. I would say, finances, insurance, all those things are definitely barriers, but just not seeing enough of us that, represent us in the community. Like I had a person from my church asked me, is there any Black male counselors you can refer me to? I'm like, that's a unicorn in the building. What are you talking about? Like, I think I know one, maybe. I know another one, but he lives in Ohio. So that I would say is one of the biggest barriers that I have seen just talking to friends and family. Like, we want Black female Black female or male counselors or whatever. And then, there's only so many in the area that it's difficult when there's like dual relationships. Like I know that I send, Black female counselors to like my Black female friends, but it's like after a while, these people who are friends with each other, you don't want them to see the same therapist in case they're talking about each other. So that is definitely a huge thing that I have seen.
And that was exactly what I was going to say as well. And I would also say too, just like a lack of awareness as well. Just actually understanding what resources are available to you, because I think there's just been this cultural stigma of, if you go talk to a therapist, you're crazy or you're not strong enough, like you should be able to figure this all out on your own. You should be able to pray about it. And so just really getting that awareness and that understanding out to communities of color that may be dealing with other barriers on top of that, like maybe just like once again, there's so many things that you deal with as a person of color, just in the US in general. And so finding ways to just get that awareness out to people, I think that's a big piece of it as well. But I also would love to have a Black counselor. And I have found a very good fit for the moment. And it's hard to find a person of color that is available, because most of the ones that I did find were 2 months booked out. And so it's kind of like you need that immediate help. And so you look to whoever's available. And like I said, luckily I have found a good fit, but it is a lot more comforting to speak to somebody who looks like you. I think especially after the past couple of years that we've had as a society as well, there's been so much that has happened. And going back to my mediocre counseling experience for just 1 second, one thing that I was struggling with for the past couple of years was because I'm biracial. And so I have a white mom and a Black dad. And obviously during the racial unrest that we had, I was dealing with trying to confront family members about what was going on and them sharing really hateful messaging. And I'm like, did you forget that I'm Black? Like, did we just forget that? And so it was very hard for me to communicate that with my counselor at the moment, because he was a white man. And so it was like, not only am I having to communicate how I feel and how these situations have impacted me, I also have to then try to explain what it's like to experience racial trauma. And so it's just like, it can be hard sometimes. It really can be. So I would echo everything that Simone said. I would.
Absolutely. Racial trauma is especially, 2020, absolutely. And, I think that when these things happen, we get that it actually qualifies in the DSM, right, as PTSD, or it can be a trigger for PTSD, or a triggering event. And if we have the same symptoms that we would have for PTSD as though it happened to us, it still qualifies, because if we witness something happen, something life-threatening or that causes death to somebody that we associate with, right, that we identify with, even if it's on TV, even if it's in the news, if we experience that, we can experience it as though it happened to us, and we can have PTSD symptoms as though it happened to us. I will say, in the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of violence against Asian Americans, and hearing these stories was extremely triggering. And I do feel like I still, even as I talk about it now, still have some traumatic response to that when I talk about it. Because there were people walking down the sidewalk, would get stabbed walking down the sidewalk, right? Or people who, there was a woman, a young mother, had a 2-year-old in her shopping cart, and had an infant with her, like on her, and was in a Sam's Club, Asian American woman. And a man in Sam's Club saw her, was enraged about the pandemic, erroneously blamed this person, right? Because people were, our president was, anyway, so erroneously blamed this person and stabbed the mother and the toddler in a Sam's Club, okay, just for shopping. Okay. And that deeply affected me. And I it's just recently that I've been back in a Sam's Club with my kid, to be honest, because those things happening, we experience them as though it's us, right? When we relate in that deeply. And so, but those are things that not everybody understands at the level that it is. And then I remember, like, with Dr. Seuss, that Dr. Seuss thing where there was, just insensitive content in one of the books that, I did personally find offensive. And I remember people would always say, like, oh, this is so stupid about Dr. Like, why are they saying that? And I remember having to explain it to people. And that was really hard, because they did not understand. Like, they just didn't, right? And even the ones who were, like, asking because they wanted to know, just didn't understand. And so absolutely, like, these things happen to us and they do impact our mental health. Yeah, I love that you guys brought that up because it is so important. Obviously, it's very important to me too. I get a little emotional about it. But because we've lived it, like I've lived what that is like to have that trauma through somebody else in the media. So, well, if you guys had a suggestion for somebody who might be on the fence about starting mental health care or medication, what suggestion might you give that person?
So my suggestion, if you're on the fence about counseling, is one, you're allowed to shop around, just like you would shop around for a car, a house. You know, you should definitely shop around for your mental health. I know it seems like a lot of effort, but you're worth it. You would not settle for your home unless you're like in dire need or something, but like you wouldn't settle for your home. You wouldn't settle for certain things. Don't settle when it comes to your mental health. And just because it's not a good fit for you, that counselor, they won't, I wouldn't take offense to it. I don't know about other counselors, but I wouldn't take offense to it because just because I'm not a good fit for you doesn't mean I'm not a good counselor. You can feel free to tell me, I'd rather see somebody else, and that's okay. That's an opportunity of growth for me. But at the end of the day, as a therapist, I want you to be in the best care for yourself. So shop around. That's why there's more than one therapist in the world. Don't settle when it comes to your mental health. And about that medication, just like I am battling, I'm at the end of strep throat right now, so I'm still a little congested, but I'm taking my medicine, amoxicillin, because I want to feel better without thinking about it. Like, I want to feel good. So the same thing with medicine for mental health. I do not want to be having anxiety attacks all the time. I don't, because I take my medicine as prescribed, and you're not going to get hooked on it if you take it as prescribed. That's, I think, where the misconception comes in. Like, I just take one pill a day and it's enough. Like, I'm not over medicated. I advocate myself to the doctor, tell him about my concerns, and like, it's not over medicated, one pill, and I take it as prescribed. I don't just pop them like candy. I think that's where a lot of stigma comes in too, like, because they're seen as party drugs. No, they are life-saving drugs. Take them as prescribed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very good advice. And once again, I'll echo Simone, just if you have tried it, and when it comes to finding a therapist and it hasn't worked for you, don't give up if you feel like that's still going to benefit you. I'm a living testament. I had a crazy experience, but I'm so grateful that I kept trying. And you will find someone that will be a good fit. There are tons of people out there. There's tons of resources out there for you. More resources almost every day. It's good to see so much expansion in the mental health care field. It really is. And also just know that if you are on the fence and you're worried about maybe what people might say or what people might think, just echoing what we said at the beginning, you're not alone. So many people experience this, and you have to do whatever is best for you, and you have to take care of your brain, because you're going to need that later in life. And we need to do whatever is best for us. And our mental health is just as important as our physical health. So getting those good practices in, maybe you're young, like me and Simone are, getting those good practices in at a young age is a good thing, because it'll help carry you through life. So, and I'm assuming we're actually all relatively young here on the call. I didn't mean to say that, like I just know me and Simone
you're
are like
old,
still
like
kind of
Chrissa and I.
No.
Oh, I love it. No, it's such a good point. And, you know, we only get one brain in this life. So it's so important to take care of it. I love that. And then don't give up. If you find somebody who's not a right fit, don't give up. It is okay to have it be about you. It is important. You are worth it. So I love all of those messages that you guys are sending out to everybody through How About Hope. And HOPE, again, stands for helping others and providing encouragement. And you can find How About Hope at www.howabouthope.com, on Facebook at How About Hope, on Instagram at How About Hope. You can also email howabouthope at howabouthope@gmail.com or president@howabouthope.com. So I hope that everybody will go check out those resources and so that you guys can continue to do this really, really great advocacy that you guys are doing out there in the community. And so thank you so much for being here, Mikhayla and Simone.
Well, I am Mikhayla Hughes-Shaw, and I definitely and absolutely love having a counselor.
I am Simone, and now that I have a new job with insurance, I am actively searching for a counselor because I need a counselor.
I love it. Absolutely. So do I. So does Chrissa. We all do. And I love when mental health professionals are taking care of themselves and seeing a counselor as well. That is so important for giving those best services as well. So if you are in the Des Moines area and you'd like to get started with mental health counseling with Simone, go ahead and give us a call at 800-531-4236, or you can find us at www.heartandsolutions.net. And if you're anywhere in Iowa and you'd like to meet with Simone, you could do telehealth as well over the computer or on the phone. So give us a call there.
Like Julie mentioned at the beginning, we post new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Time. So save up whatever task you hate doing and listen to us 5 p.m. on Sundays while you do that. And we can help convince you to reach out to a counselor and get set up with services, or to learn about our new guests that week, so you would learn about how that helped this week as well. So if you have questions for us or for Mikhayla or Simone, you can reach out to us at You Need a Counselor on Facebook or You Need a Counselor on Instagram as well. So I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Bye.